And welcome to the Chris Hand Show. And I am Jennifer Sheets, and I'm just filling in today as Chris is just a little bit under the weather. And so here we are, random Thursday, and so much news this week. I can't even begin to wrap my brain around it. And I'm joined in studio, broadcasting live in downtown Nashville with my amazing producer, Mason. How you doing today?
Doing all right. I'm a little tired of traffic, but I'm
yeah, it was
all right.
terrible this morning. It's terrible.
Yeah, I was like, with that construction over there is driving me a little nuts.
It's every day. It's something new pattern. You got to memorize it, and you just got to make up for that. And I don't know. It just changes everything, changes the dynamic of your day. You need a lot of coffee when you get here or energy drink. Well, I want to welcome all of you to the Chris Hand Show. And I wanted to say, for those of you that came out to the vice presidential watch party at Hop Springs on Tuesday, what a time we had. That was amazing. We were joined live by all of the talent at the station, Dan Mandis, Brian Wilson, Chris Hand, Matt Murphy. And then we also had Fox Nation that was there broadcasting as well. And I just have to tell all of you out there, what a sweet and warm welcome you gave me. I just am beyond appreciative of it. I had so many people come up and talk to me, and I met some great fans of the station, of everybody's show, and have great opinions. And you all are what makes this happen. You're the reason why we're here and we do these shows. You're the reason why Chris does this show. It's because we want to talk about the issues that are important to you and give you a voice, and that's what it is. But it was interesting, Mason, because it was after the party was done. Well, I guess it was like the after part of it where they wanted to get responses, and Fox Nation was there. I actually had Matt Murphy was talking with everyone that was there. I think like Clay Travis was there, Tommy Lauren was there. The whole group was there. And Matt was just sharing his like initial thoughts right after the debate. And then they had asked me about it too. And I had talked about how I felt like that at times, very much so, how from Tim Walz to the Democratic Party, how they'll pander a lot to women. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I want to give a shout out to all the ladies that showed up out there, because you were all clapping about this. And I said, well, it's crazy that you think you have to tell me, well, it's because you're a woman, or, women should do this because it's a woman's issue, or I don't know, just the woman vote. Like, I vote for people because of how competent they are at the job. I mean, if the one thing we're going to get away from, right, is being individuals and not judging people. That's the whole thing. You're supposed to be with people that are of the same like mind, or respect them if they can come across with a great argument or whatever. And I want to pick the best possible candidate. And the issues are so important to me as they are to everybody. And I just hated that it felt like, oh, because you're a woman, you have to vote this way and vote for Kamala. So that will not be happening on my end of the spectrum and everything. But Mason, did you get to watch it all? Did you see the whole thing? Were you? I know you weren't feeling good. I mean, your poor leg.
Yeah, I was like that, and then I got slightly sick that night, and it was just not a fun time. It was not a fun time. But I got to hear a good recap talking with Chris that day on Wednesday. And then I've just seen clips online of it all. It's I have not watched the presidential debate all the way through,
right,
just because I hear it so much here, and I'd rather it be broken down for me, because I can listen to them blabber on for a good hour and a half, or I could hear it properly filtered to where I understand what's being talked about instead.
It's amazing if you go, like, especially if you watch all the transcripts on YouTube,
my goodness,
well, because it does it and then it'll put the transcript up. But what's funny is I thought, okay, it was at Hop Springs. Everyone's having a good time. And sometimes if you're going to go have a watch party for a presidential or vice presidential debate, you probably should have alcohol involved at some point, right?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit.
More bearable.
Because, you just don't know what you're dealing with, right?
Yeah, safely.
Well, they were talking about there's a drinking game. And it was supposed to be based on like how many times each of the candidates said certain things. Like every time the word immigration got brought up, every time chaos got brought up, there was.
I saw cats and dogs was on the list.
Yes, it was so funny because it was like the first time you said you're supposed to take one drink, and then the second time you said it was supposed to take two, and so on and so forth. And so I was just kind of curious. So I took the transcript of the debate, and I threw it into Chat GPT, and I was like, well, what were the most used words and how many times? And there's these graphs that actually take each segment of the debate and tells you who used what the most. And it does say, though, the most used word by both candidates was Trump.
Interesting.
Funny. Isn't that funny?
Interesting.
And then it also had, they said Kamala less than they said Harris. So that was interesting, too. Because, when you think about it, when it's the guys, you're usually just calling them by, you don't say Donald usually, or Tim,
or
right?
it's his full name. It's Donald Trump
name.
instead of just Donald. Yeah.
But we all have a tendency to say Kamala. We don't say Harris. So it was interesting how that played out, and I just was curious. I'm like,
I think it's interesting that they said Harris a lot, because I thought it was a lot. I do feel like this one was a little more respectful on that end. They called her Vice President Harris a lot.
I did
which
too.
I think is a good show on Vance's part as well.
Well, I thought we kind of needed that, because there were a lot of people really turned off from the original debate for several reasons, no matter where you sit on it, because it's just so cutthroat. But at the same time, I had this weird feeling. I was talking to some of the listeners from the station that were around me during that time when we were watching, and I said it just almost seemed like there was a respect in some sense between the both of them. And that my favorite thing was when Vance would say to him a few times, well, Tim, I really believe you want to solve this problem, but I don't believe who you're running with does. And I thought that was genius. Absolutely genius to have that being said. Which
I think is a good return to what presidential and vice presidential debates were, how they used to be. Whereas there was actual respect. You were focused on policies. You were focused on what you were going to achieve in office, not how can I rib this person the hardest to where they look really, really bad.
Well, it's genius, too, how when you think about how Vance handled the question, because any question he had, he was going to provide the answer, but he would say something very poignant at first. And I did think it was interesting, that whole part, that there's a couple awkward parts, right? So there's the one awkward part where their mics get turned off. And I'm so proud of Vance for speaking up and saying something, because this is what happens so much, why we all are on this station and listen to this show, is because things are very clouded. They're very try to lead you down a path that isn't necessarily the way that it's smoke and mirrors, right? Smoke and mirrors. Like, we're going to say that, like they're talking about Springfield, Ohio, and all the things with the Haitian immigrant population there, and trying to call Trump and everybody liars about all that. But they're like, you're not telling the whole side of the story. And so then they kept trying to get him to stop talking. He wouldn't. And I loved it that he just kept pushing through. I did a little homework on the moderators. What did you think of the moderators, Mason, when you got to watch the recap?
I liked them better than the presidential debate one.
Yes.
But it was definitely a 3-on-1 conversation. Like the two moderators, and then Vance against our boy,
yes.
J.D. Vance.
Oh, yeah, yes. And the one, I kind of remember, O'Donnell, I think it is. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to know a little bit more about both of them after that whole deal. And it was very interesting. Her net worth is like $22 million. And I thought,
so an amount of money I'll never see.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So here she is, $22 million. And then it felt like the condescension, or the condescending, is that what I say, tone that she might have had about certain issues, and trying to talk about Americans are struggling right now. I'm like, well, lady, you aren't struggling. No way, shape, form, or fashion. So it seemed like it was a place that was where I looked at both candidates, and obviously us all on the show and listeners of the Chris Hand Show know where we sit on things for the most part. However, I did feel like it was these two almost looked more presidential and sounded more presidential than what the two that are running for office. So it's very, very interesting how that all played out. I also thought too, the idea of Tim getting caught into where his time in China. And those of you that listened on Tuesday when Chris was filling in for Dan, when he had his first grandbaby, and then I came in and filled in for Chris, we talked a lot about that. And it was funny too, because Mason and I also were discussing that day, like what we thought maybe would be the tone of the debate, and we were hoping that it would be more like it was, as far as seemed to be a little bit more where we could get to actually the issues. I hope all of you felt that way. We got to hear a little bit more about what was going on, but what an interesting turn from the first time. But you still could see and hear all the little anecdotes or the digging that was going on, and I just kept wanting to be like a fly on the wall, because every time JD said something, you'd see, Tim Walz like scribbling something down on his message pad. And I wasn't really sure, was he really answering him, like going to answer him with something that he remembered? Or was he just going to say so? I thought, oh, is he drawing little illustrations right now? Is he actually writing a thought that he's going to say?
He's drawing pictures of him and Kamala standing on the wall that they're
yes,
going to build.
He's trying to point
air
that,
quotes
yes,
there.
air quotes, yes. He's trying to portray like this beautiful picture, make himself, it's his therapy.
Yeah.
When he was like a little worried about what was going on in the debate, he had to just like draw some pictures and whatnot. So it was interesting. And I like I said, I loved everybody coming out. The takes from the fans and the listeners and everybody, because there was a lot of fans of not only our talent here at the station, but of Fox Nation. And Mason, I know that you weren't there, but everybody that's listening that was there, it felt like there was Secret Service there. I can't tell you like the amount of security that was at that event. And it made me kind of, laugh at the fact that, we have the security at this event, and then the lack thereof of security on a presidential candidate nominee that we've had, and such a very vastly different understanding of what we envision is important. And I think really what come down to is that those, especially those from Fox Nation that came, that had a lot of security there. They had the metal detectors we went through and everything, which I'm so glad for, by the way. I don't know about you all. I will never be one that complains about any of that. I think that we live in a world right now where we have to be safe no matter what. And to me, if you're not doing anything wrong, it shouldn't bother you to have to go through that. I get that it might take a little extra time, but it shouldn't have to bother you. But it was very interesting, the lengths at which they went to. And I think just very savvy of even like the Fox Nation group that was there to make sure that they protect themselves, because you just don't know, what people are thinking and what's going through their head, and especially on a debate night. So I did think it was like Men in Black, Secret Service. It was very interesting, very serious people that were around that night, but it did make me feel a little bit safer. I hope it made everybody feel a little bit safer that came out there today. So I know we're going to take a break a minute, our first break of the 3 hours that you're going to buckle up and sit in with us. We've got a lot to get to. I really want to talk about what's going on in East Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. I've got some sound bites I want to talk to everyone, or have you listen to, and we can talk about, because I feel like this is an issue that's not getting enough attention right now, and I want to keep that in the top part of everyone's brain, mind, everything. So we're glad to have you here today, glad on this Thursday, and you're listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Up ahead here on WTN, the East Tennessee plastics plant that's now under investigation for how it handled its hurricane evacuation. Also, why a Tennessee speedway is buzzing with a different kind of traffic today. Those stories coming up at 10, make that 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And welcome back to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And Joan, I'm with you. I don't even know what time and day it is at this particular point.
Just rushing through the day now, aren't we?
That's right. Hey, I was so thankful for listening to you today on my way in. I got to tell you, because you're doing an amazing, amazing job. So
thanks.
Great to have you here, and amazing to listen to. Great commentary. Love it. Love every bit of it. Love to hear another woman's voice on the radio,
I
too.
think that's probably the most important thing that we bring. We bring a little estrogen.
Yes, we do,
to
right?
WTN, you bet.
That's right. Little flair in there. I love it. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us for the Chris Hand Show. I'm Jennifer Sheets. I'm just filling in today as Chris is a little under the weather. I host a show on Sundays from 11 to 12 called Master the Workforce, and fill in from time to time when there's a little bit of extra help needed around here. But I'm blessed and thankful to be here. And I wanted to really kind of dive in for a second about the hurricane. Because, again, I really am getting disturbed at how much today, even if you flip on CNN, what you'll see in the headlines is all about this paper that's getting released on Trump and everything. That seems to be the one thing that they're talking about. And here we have the biggest disaster we have. It's the third worst hurricane that's ever hit the country. We all know how high the death toll is rising, how many people are still missing, the critical supplies that aren't there. Let's couple that with what's going on at the at the ports with the strike, which I want to get into that later today. But I mean, to me, it just the human decency and that's the lack thereof in the administration that's in right now. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you fall on. I mean, do you think that someone who's lost their home or buried in the mud or can't get water or food or diapers cares whether you're a Democrat or a Republican? All they care about is that they get help. And the fact that that is not happening is so disturbing. But I don't even know what's worse, that or the fact that when Ms. Harris, Kamala, was speaking, trying to look a little bit more presidential with her jacket with a seal on, which I don't even think I've ever seen her put on before when she goes anywhere. But saying, looking down at her notes and talking about this, and I think on Jesse Waters last night on Fox, he was talking about this in detail, about how she's bragging about the $750 per person that each person's going to get for relief. Well, we give more money, not only obviously to Ukraine, but thousands of dollars for people after COVID. I mean, you name it. And we're thinking this is good to give people $750. And what good is that money if they can't get out from where they're at and get supplies into where they're at? And there was a very, very interesting story that had come out of on Newsbreak this morning of a gentleman they were interviewing who lives in North Carolina, has his own helicopter. Him and his son got in the helicopter to try to help because he posted something on Facebook saying, hey, I can come help you all if you tell me where you're at. And he just got flooded with family members from all over the country asking him, can you go check on this person? Can you go to this area? So he put his son in the helicopter with him. He grabbed some supplies. He took off and he started rescuing people, started bringing food and water that was needed. And at one point, he had landed the helicopter. They cleared out this area and brought food and water, and he was going back to get more. He landed in a parking lot, and then he had police officers come up to him and ask him what he was doing there, who he was. And as he's explaining all of this to them, they're like, no. You're done. And if you keep doing it, we're going to arrest you. And he's like, my son's up there, with someone that's stranded. I mean, the stories like that are unreal because whenever there's been any type of other hurricane, or even if you remember during Katrina, they were, helicopters everywhere. People were, rappelling down to rooftops. There was boats coming out everywhere to help people, and you're not seeing anything. And it just makes me beg the question, it's bigger than why. Is it because where it is? I mean, is it because the government has an opinion that's biased about certain areas of the country and they're not reacting to it? Or is that not it at all? Is it just a complete lack of self-awareness close to election and being self-involved in your own party and really don't care? So, I think that it's so important to even bring up like one of thank you, someone who texted said $750 that the IRS will take back. Yeah, because I will tell you right now, I know we got to take a break in a second, but even the relief that came, the ERC credit to businesses that they gave it and said once everyone took it, they said it's profit and we're taxing it and took it all back. So I agree with you. So I can't wait to get in this more. I want to hear from everybody. I want you to start calling. Let's talk about this. Let's get some attention on this, get some help for people. And we'll see you back after the news at the bottom of the hour. And you're listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 9:30 now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We are headed up to roughly 83 degrees today. We've got your forecast still to come. Some good news as Eastern Tennessee continues the hurricane recovery effort. The number of power outages is down to 900 now. Just yesterday, they were as high as 5,000. TEMA Director Patrick Sheehan says that communications, however, are still challenging.
There are still lots of problems with cell phone communications in Verizon. Especially in Carter County, and we're working with Verizon and AT&T to provide solutions. And as the governor talked about, Elon Musk and Starlink are providing things in addition to what we've already purchased to augment that communications capability.
More than 600 structures are damaged or destroyed. Also, Bristol Motor Speedway has now been transformed into the staging area for the East Tennessee recovery effort. It's now the major distribution center in the aftermath of the devastating flooding. If you'd like to make donations, you can find a list of the items most needed in each county on TEMA's website. Click on the tab that's labeled Get Involved. TBI is investigating after at least one worker at a plastics plant in East Tennessee claims workers were not allowed to leave in time to safely escape Hurricane Helene's flooding. 29-year-old Rosa Andrade is one of the workers missing from Impact Plastics. Channel 4 says that her cousin said they last heard from her in a phone call on Friday.
She just said that when they let them out, it was already too late because cars were moving away with the water. Her car, my aunt said that she was crying, my car is just going away with the water. And that's where she just lost it.
Impact Plastics says it will fully cooperate with the TBI investigation, adding that they're also conducting a search, an investigation of their own. Well, there are some losses on Wall Street today. Dow Jones Industrials minus 263. The NASDAQ is down 33. S&P 500 index is down 14. That's the latest news. We've got weather coming up. Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
And welcome back to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am your host, Jennifer Sheets, just filling in for Chris today. He's a little under the weather, but he will be back. And we are talking about everything today because this week has just been insane with news. And, you know, I hate the fact that I'm having to continue to talk about the hurricane and not getting help. I mean, I actually looked up on the break to see, I'm like, where is Miss Harris today? Or where's the vice president at, right? And she is going to be in Wisconsin today, stomping around, I guess, at the GOP, where it originated, the city that it originated in, because I guess Liz Cheney is supporting her. And so she's going to go talk about how the Republican Party started and why we shouldn't be along party lines. And here we've got people that need food, water, can't get in and out. We have this massive, I mean, couple that with the port thing going on. Again, we're going to get to that later, but like you have this massive draw on toilet paper, paper towel. Yet the people, like we have people across the country are panic buying it, but the people that really need things like that can't even get to it. And this is what we're doing. Like we're going over there in Wisconsin and want to talk about how the Republican Party started when you're, what do we call it? Dan always calls it like that she's Marxist. Is that what we always say? Something to that effect. And to me, it's just such a disconnect of everything. And what is really kind of even more interesting is when I forgot to mention this, the first segment. Mason, I forgot to tell you about this. And Joan, I don't know if you were there also on Tuesday for the watch party. But
I was not. And
you
I
was
wish
not there.
I was.
Oh my
No.
gosh, it was just so fantastic because the listeners of the station are amazing. The audiences that all the talent have on here are just superb. Whether they agree with you or not, I don't care. They're there. They're there listening and they care about what's going on. But there was Denmark TV there. And Denmark TV was broadcasting, and I mean like the country Denmark, because they wanted to get a feel for what the populace between the two coasts, the main part of the country, thinks about what's going on. And I had asked the question, I said, well, what is so interesting about it? She goes, well, we realized over in Denmark and all in the Scandinavian countries and everything, she said that something wasn't adding up. That what we were getting from media in New York and what we're getting from media in Los Angeles does not add up at all to the way that they feel Americans are responding on social media, commentating, and they kind of feel like, you know, what's the voice, what's going on? And so they came here, and like the one lady that's part of the show, she was so kind. And she actually created it. She is living here now. And then there was another journalist that was with her. And she just said, we're just going around getting paid. We're trying not to sway one way or the other, but we really want to know what you have to say. And I just thought, isn't that crazy that the rest of the world, that they are so involved in what happens here? And she said, because they respond to how United States, whether they feel confident or not, or what's going on in this country. So because we are the leaders of the free world, they do look up to, especially the smaller countries, as to the decisions we're making, the trajectory we're taking, what are the things that are important to us. And they have to embed themselves in the middle of the United States to come to a watch party of the vice presidential debate in order to get a take on what's actually happened, because they even realize how skewed everything is in mainstream media. I mean, what does that tell you? And I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but when Denmark TV shows up to a watch party in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for a vice presidential debate, that tells me the rest of the world is on pins and needles. I mean, they are on pins and needles about what are we going to do. And you know, yes, when you couple that with like why I wanted to stick on the hurricane thing is I think Dan mentioned it this morning about how they were saying that FEMA says there's not enough money to support the current need for the hurricane or any future hurricanes or whatever is going to happen this season. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it the perfect way, but you all know, you've heard, I'm sure you heard Dan talking about it and seen that. Really what the gist of it is that we're running out of money. But yet we can go and give all this money to Ukraine. We can do all the things that we're doing with that. And I just feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, and I don't want to do that. I want us to have some conversation about this as to about why we are electing the people. I talked about this Tuesday when I filled in for Chris, at the local, regional, and state level that allow this to happen. because it isn't just that entity of vice president and president, it's everybody on down. And everyone needs to take a picture of that when it comes to getting in that voting booth in 30 days and think long and hard. Don't go in there and go, okay, I just know I'm voting for Trump, or I just know I'm voting for Harris, and not pay attention to the rest of the doggone ticket. Because this right here, what's going on is huge. The pressure needs to be on FEMA right now. And there, I know Jesse Waters talked about this. It was on Gutfeld last night. The response time of the criticism that Bush got for Katrina versus what's going on now. And it was 5 days before a response came. And then and here's the other thing. If you remember, Mason and Joan, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when Katrina happened, no matter what you turned on the television, even, just regular entertainment, there was always like a number scrolling or somewhere on the bottom, where you could help?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
And then they did like the telethon type of thing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, where is that now?
Right. Exactly.
And don't you think it has to do with where it is? I mean, I would love to know both your opinions. I mean, the listeners hear you guys every day. I know you have an opinion.
I can't help but to think, and I mean, I heard this from the very beginning when the hurricane had not even finished yet. I heard a lot of people saying it's in the South and it's in red states. And, it's probably not going to happen too quickly. We did an interview this morning with Jeremy Faison.
Yes.
State representative from the Eastern Tennessee area. And he said that FEMA was pretty slow.
Oh, yeah.
Just slow.
We need to play some clips of that, Joan. Like that, I would love for the audience.
I have one coming up.
Do you have one? Okay, good. Because I really want people to hear that. And you felt like he was frustrated too, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he was. Very complimentary about what's happening on the ground with TEMA, with the Tennessee emergency management officials.
Oh, yeah.
But as for the federal government, yeah, they just weren't right there.
No.
And they needed to be to save lives.
Well, and think about that when I was asking you, Mason, about if you remember during Katrina, like the backlash that Bush got. Was insane.
My goodness.
I mean, and it was like, I think it was 3 days. This was 5. I think they were naming this morning how quick the response was in previous hurricanes. Between one of them, Obama, it was 2 days, and it was 3 days with Bush, and then they were ready to like impeach him for it, and all the things that they said and did.
And don't you remember the mayor of New Orleans saying that it's Chocolate Town, and that's why he wasn't coming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just disgusting.
Yep.
Because like I was mentioning, I mean, when you're in trouble, do you really, life is very different when you're in trouble. And I can say this emphatically, and just in a quick 10-second side of it, my son, when he was 3.5, was diagnosed with leukemia, got cancer 3 more times, and had to have a bone marrow transplant. And let me tell you, when you think your world is like one way, and you're just worried about, I'm mad that all the toilet paper's gone, or I'm ticked off because I'm in traffic, or whatever the case is, right?
Yes.
You have something like that happen to you, and the only thing that matters is your family and what happened to you. If you don't care if you live in a van down by the river, right? You just care about your being safe.
Yeah.
You have food, water, your family's together. And so you're right, Joan, to your point, like this is ludicrous to be treating this the way it is. I do think this is exactly what it is, why we're not getting the help, and why they would turn away a gentleman that's willing with his own money and gas to take his helicopter and rescue people and turn him away.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's like, what have we become? And it's completely scary.
It's about liability and it's the craziest stuff. Americans, we're at our best when there's a need and we go to help. I mean, that's what we do.
Yes. That's why they're a volunteer state, right?
That's right.
We're
There's a reason we're called that.
That's right. And, I love this. Chris Weber, he just messaged and he said in 2010, the floods that hit Middle Tennessee. I remember the schoolhouse floating down 24. Wow. They were grossly undercovered by the mass media. Then, Chris, to your point, yes. 1,000%. And I think the only reason why it ended up getting the coverage that it did was because we have celebrity in this town. So you have enough power from the country stars or the actors or singers, whatever, that are here, the athletes that were living in it, that were the ones forcing the attention to be brought to it. Yeah. And otherwise you just weren't going to have it. do you think that they were telling the people that were coming up, and that there's a lot of video of Kamala when she was in Georgia, and she's just like holding to people's hands, and she's like, this one girl starts crying and stuff. I would love your guys' opinion on this. Do you think that they go around and tell them what they can and can't ask, or they just handpick the people so that it looks a certain way? Because I don't know. It was just very weird.
I've never been in one of those situations, where I'm watching how it's happening, but it does have that feel, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Without question. And I want to thank someone who just text in, sorry, and that's a lot to say in a second, is Lori. And she said Fox just reported that DHS has been using FEMA funds for resettlement, and now there's not enough funds to help with Helene. And like she said, unforgivable. She said it's all over X. I 1,000% agree with you, Lori. Absolutely unforgivable at this point. And when are we all going to get so ticked off that we actually really move the needle on this? And you know what's going to happen again, Joan, to your point and everything, is that it's going to be us coming to the rescue, saving the day as we should, because that's what's the most important thing. And party lines don't matter, election doesn't matter. We got to go help people. But everybody remember this: in 30 days, when you go to that voting booth, you need to pay attention. And so I'm angry about this more. I hope you all are too. But I know we're going to
feel it, Jennifer.
Feel it? Can you feel it through the radio? And hello, everybody that's watching on Facebook Live and streaming. Yeah, I just cannot right now with it. It's just maddening to me. But we got to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to talk just a little bit more about this, and we're going to jump into the port, because that is affecting everybody, and that's huge. And one hand goes with the other. So thank you again for listening to the Chris Hand Show. I'm Jennifer Sheets, and we'll see you back after the break.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Still to come here, the hurricane death toll rises in Tennessee. Also, the Vols plan to honor the victims and first responders to the hurricane. Those stories coming up at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, I want to welcome everybody back in again, listening to the Chris Hand Show, continuing to listen to. I know that we've got just a couple minutes before we're going to have the top of the hour. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Mason. And I'm Jennifer Sheets. I'm just filling in today for Chris as he's under the weather, but so much to get to and talk about. We want to hear from you. And by the way, love all of my Super Talk texters. The text line is hot this morning. If you want to text in, it's 615-737-9986. Our phone lines, we're getting those all up and running. I guess we had a little bit of a glitch this morning, but they're going to be moving here pretty soon, and we'll be able to take calls after the top of the hour. So much to get to, and all of you have been just giving me so much information, sharing so much information. It's coming in fast and furious. Like I said on the Super Talk text line, I can't wait to get into it. We're going to talk about the trucks that are trying to deliver supplies to North Carolina, and they've been being vandalized at the truck stops, having tires slashed. What's going on at the port? That's huge. This is all related, and it's timing couldn't be worse, obviously, for it. And so this is why we're going to keep talking about it. I want you guys to vent today. This is the time to talk about this. This is the time to take action. And someone in Virginia said the U.S. has sent $113 billion to Ukraine, and that's roughly $3,000 for every single citizen of Ukraine. And I am with you 1,000%. We can only give $750 to Americans that are devastated by Helene. It's disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. Thank you, Virginia, for sending that in, because it just points it out. And it's not that we don't want to help our neighbors or throw in when there's something terrible going on. But the thing of it is, when we need help at home and we haven't prepared for that, and leadership has never prepared for that, and they're more worried about politics and how we look to other countries and just decimating this country than taking off and doing what we need to do to help us be stronger again. Hey, it's time to go in 30 days. Time to go. So keep the calls. Start the calls coming in. I want to hear from you. We're going to talk about what's the mess at the port, what that is doing, and what we can do to try and help that, and get some numbers out today too, so that you can absolutely help the victims in Tennessee, Carolina, Atlanta, everywhere, Georgia, Florida, from this awful hurricane. But we'll be back after the top of the hour, and you're listening to the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. 62 at the moment. We're headed to 83 later. The full forecast is still to come. More victims of Hurricane Helene have been located and identified, and that brings the Tennessee total to 11. Governor Lee saying the process by which survivors get what they need is being simplified.
We are opening multi-agency response centers in the hardest hit areas, so that people can get their driver's license or get their food assistance or get services from human services or child services. Those are all going to be located in one place that people can go to and then be directed to find additional services as well.
Also, significant improvement in getting power back in East Tennessee. TEMA says there are now 900 reported without power today. That's down from 5,000 at one point yesterday. Well, the owner of Franklin Springs Academy has been indicted on 20 federal charges, including not collecting or paying employee taxes and wire fraud. Prosecutors also saying Rebecca Proctor used $200,000 of grant money that was meant to help pay employees for her own personal use.
That's disgusting. Disturbing. I have no words.
That woman is a former employee talking to Channel 4. When the Tennessee Volunteers take the field against Arkansas this weekend, they'll be wearing special patches on their helmets to recognize the struggles of those in East Tennessee.
Our hearts go out to them. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, and just hope everybody's able to bounce back relatively quickly.
That's a Vols head coach Josh Heupel. The game is Saturday evening at 6:30. A Clarksville man arrested last evening after a standoff at a hotel. Police say they were called to the hotel by someone saying that they wanted to report an unwanted guest. Well, when police arrived, somebody inside that room fired a shot through the door, but they wouldn't come out and they wouldn't open the door for police. And that led to the standoff. Police eventually arrested 61-year-old Keith Smith. He was taken to a hospital before being booked into jail. That's the latest news. Weather still to come. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
And welcome into the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 10:05. We're broadcasting live from downtown Nashville, Tennessee at the end of Music Row. And Chris is out under the weather a little bit today, so I'm just helping out and filling in. Again, my name is Jennifer Sheets. I host a show on Sundays from 11 to noon called Master the Workforce, and fill in from time to time when people need a break or, have something going on exciting like Dan having a new grandbaby Tuesday. And then Chris filled in for Dan and I filled in for Chris. So thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for the grace that you've given me to come in and help each other out. That's what we do. We're a team, and so much to get to this week. Regardless of what's happening with everything going on, we have to talk about this because we have 30 days to an election. I believe the most important election in this country, and we need to be laying everything on the table, especially if we have listeners that are undecided at this point. I did have someone text in. By the way, thank you again for the text that you have. I'm going to get callers. I got callers lined up now. I'm ready to go. Going to take some calls from all of you. But I did want to say, whoever was texting from 318-8203, I need to read this because this is great. Said that I would like to bring attention to Harrison Ford, who has a home out west in the Rocky Mountains. He has his own helicopter and a pilot license. He has repeatedly refused to allow the press to cover when he was the one who found lost Boy Scouts. He just didn't want the publicity. And it said, can you imagine how amazing it is if you're a lost 10-year-old and you have been away from civilization for a couple days and then Indiana Jones come to rescue rescue you in a helicopter. Mason, can you just, like, of all the things, that would be
my dream. Absolutely,
yes,
my dream.
That's where you needed to have like the Indiana Jones music. Wouldn't it be kind of neat to have that like on a helicopter piping out as he's rescuing people and they're just trying to get their mind in a better place? That would be kind of neat, you know?
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. So I really appreciate you sharing that story with us, because it's very much so that we need to be thinking about the people that are taking steps to help and taking action. But let's take a call. I want to go to Michael in the borough real quick. Hey, Michael, you're listening to the Chris Hand Show. You're on the Chris Hand Show. I'm Jennifer. We want to talk to you. What you got going on today?
Well, hello. Everybody's doing such a great job, as usual.
Aw.
But, yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
The two ladies and, of course, Mason sitting back there.
Yeah, we're bugging him today.
Hey, now.
I figure. Poking you from both directions.
That's right.
Well, my friend is over there in North Carolina, and we finally got in touch with him because of cell service and all, but we worried about him. Well, anyhow, so he's staying. He said that just came up so fast on everybody. I mean, it was unbelievable. But he's staying with this elderly woman, and she has a house that, due to the erosion, it's sitting right on the edge of the bank now. And they're wondering what we're going to do, you know. So they're watching and worrying, you know, and just side note from all the other stuff that does and doesn't get reported on, stuff like that's happening too, you know.
Yeah, it's something that someone's going to have to deal with for a very long time. And can you imagine the insurance nightmare that comes with that?
Oh boy, I know.
I mean, Michael, I'm glad that you point that out, because there are so many families that there's an aftermath of this. So even if they were fortunate enough to survive what's going on now, now it's the lifeline of, you know, food, clean food, water, supplies, and where am I going to live? Like you said, if a house is teetering, you know, what's going to happen with that?
I sent you that note about the lines not working. So anyway, I'm glad you got them going.
I appreciate
All
that.
Right.
Well, thank
keep
you.
on doing a good job like you've been doing.
We appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without you, Michael. So thank you for listening today. Appreciate that so much. And I want to also go to Mike in Morrison, who wants to talk about the flood. Hey, Mike, thank you for listening to the Chris Hand Show. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Oh, thanks for having me on. People are complaining about how long it took the government to respond. I almost say the government should stuff it and just send out the National Guard. FEMA and the Red Cross are taking over donations. They're taking over monetary donations, sticking them in their bank accounts, which means it's not all going to be used. They're turning away shipments of supplies. So if you're going to donate, just don't go to FEMA or the Red Cross.
Right.
There's out there. I know my family has worked with God's Pit Crew and 8 Days of Hope, and they are both great places. You can volunteer. So, yeah,
I appreciate you saying that, Mike. You do have to be careful where you give your money, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it's scary, because you need to get, it's your hard-earned money. You feel compelled and the compassion to help people, but how does it help anybody if it's not getting to the right person? And then I feel bad for everybody that's giving, because it's like, how do you know? Truly, I mean, you think, right? I mean, you think, Mike, if you give your money to FEMA or Red Cross, it's going to get where it needs to be.
Exactly. You think it'll get there, but it's not.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you giving a call and giving your take on that, Mike. Thank you for listening to the Chris Hand Show. And I also want to go to Lee in Hillsborough to talk about the flood. Hi, Lee. Welcome. I appreciate you listening today.
Yes. With this $750, whether it's, Democrats or whatever the government, okay, they did the same thing with the wildfires in Hawaii, okay? And what's happened in Hawaii, we don't even know what's happened in Hawaii, what the rebuilding or whatever, land grabbers came in there. But I just don't understand with our government that they can give out like $9 billion to Ukraine. They can give all this free money to the DHS or whoever it is that's giving out money to these illegal immigrants, okay? And they're just going to give $750 just like they did in Hawaii. And who decides? I mean, I'm just wondering why
Yeah,
is
who
it that the
who makes
government
that?
does not help the people.
Yeah, and
Our
you know,
people.
and I'm sure you're probably thinking too, Lee, like, okay, the $750 that you're giving a person. I mean, when are they going to get it? Somebody had texted and said, "What?
Yeah.
What? Are you going to mail them a check and they're going to go to their mailbox?" Oh, wait, their mailbox doesn't exist because it's
Right.
buried in 30 feet of mud. What's the logic? I mean, I get that people direct deposit. That's the irony of it. The direct deposit of tax refunds and things like that. But I mean, even saying that, you don't have internet, right? So how you do your online banking, how you going to get all that? It takes the government so long to do anything anyway. So, how do people think that even if you're going to give them $750, what is that? That's not even a 2-night stay at a decent hotel. So I mean,
And
just.
do you know if it's true? Do you know if it's true that they found that there's a big lithium?
Yes, there's a lot.
Do you think the government is not going to go in there and help and everything, because what's going to happen
Yes.
is the same thing as in Hawaii, land grabbers
Yes.
or people from the government or China, especially China, coming in there.
Lee, you hit the nail on the head. It's a conspiracy theory, going on out there right now with that.
I have to say, I'm Asian, okay?
Yes.
All right, but this is ridiculous that our government is not helping the people out there. And I have friends and family that live in that area.
Me too.
Okay?
I do too.
Thank the good Lord and thank God, that they're all safe and everything. And all I can say to everybody is to pray and
Yes.
that God will answer our prayers. And another thing I was wondering, I want to donate stuff. Like I have extra dishes. I have clothes that I don't wear anymore. I don't want to give it to Goodwill. If I can get it to somewhere where I know that those people will be able to use it, is there anywhere, or should I take it to try to get somebody from Samaritan Purse to come and pick this stuff up?
It's a
Because I really
great
hear that
question.
Samaritan Purse is doing a really
Yes.
fantastic job.
Oh,
out
my
there.
goodness,
And
Lee, yes.
thank you, Franklin Graham and his son and whoever else. And it's discussing about that guy that's helping out, and the police say, "Oh, you come back here, I'm going to arrest you." That's a bunch of
It's
BS.
terrible. And I want to, Lee, thank you for bringing this up. There's so many things that you just said I want to talk about in a minute. So we appreciate you listening to the Chris Hand Show. I know Chris loves and just treasures his listeners. And I thank you so much for listening today, Lee, and bringing that up. A couple things. Maybe what we're going to do, too, when we get to the bottom of the hour, too, is I'm going to have myself, Mason, Ken's coming in at the bottom of the hour to do some news. We'll find some numbers and things that we can pass on that you all can share with one another so we can get some help where it needs to go, and you can feel assured that if you have items as opposed to money that you can give to the people that have lost everything and help them get back on their feet again. And yes, Pat, RPMC, she said you can give to Samaritan's Purse. I've heard a lot of good things about that. And yes, that is true about the lithium thing. That the big conspiracy theory going out there right now is, that they made this happen and that they want to buy up the land, and this is where they want to, produce the lithium. And I mean, it's crazy things. We could all probably all go down the rabbit hole, but I want to, we've got time to get to those things later. I just wanted to keep the focus for a minute on what's going on there so that we can all jump in and try and help. So I would love to talk to Dave in Hendersonville. Hey, Dave, thanks for listening to the Chris Hand Show.
How you doing this morning?
I'm hanging in there. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I heard it reported on the news that Mayorkas had taken $1 billion from FEMA and give to the illegal immigrants that's in here, and they said that they do not have enough money now in FEMA to help people.
Yeah, that is the word on the street, is that is what's going on. There's been so much, Dave, out on the internet about that right now. And, someone had just texted in from Houston, Texas, saying to remind everybody to put it in perspective that, we, the taxpayers, not the government, are paying for Ukraine and the resettlement of illegals and everything. So this is kind of what you're talking about, is like, where did the money go? And I can tell you, like, Dave, when you talk about you go into the voting booth, right? When you go into the voting booth, are you going to look at just strictly where you're at in the presidential side? Are you going to be like the rest of us now, really looking at where that falls down into the local and state level so we can make some changes?
Oh, I'm conservative across the board.
Good.
I've been a Democrat my whole life, but I'm conservative across the board. I'm like everybody else. They left me. I didn't leave them. and they have done nothing but destroy this country, and we've got to put an end to it. The polls, I don't believe in the polls. I don't believe they're right whatsoever. There's no way. She did not get one vote. She was the first one out in the presidential run. But I do not believe for 1 second that she is holding steady with Trump. Don't believe it for 1 second.
Yeah, I agree.
If you got an R by your name, you're getting my vote.
I appreciate that call so much, Dave. Dave from Hendersonville, thank you for joining us on the show and giving your perspective of that. Yes, and I wanted to ask that question because I really am hopeful that this time, I mean, and I've been guilty of it. I'm going to tell you in years past, especially even when I was a lot younger, I'm not going to date myself right now. It's pretty old. But when I was a lot younger, I mean, I would go in and I'm like, okay, this is who I'm voting for. This is how I feel about something. And I was just kind of, this is the way it's going to be. And you realize as you get older and what actually happens around you in local memorandums and taxes and just everything that involves really what is your daily life routine revolves around those that you put in office at the time, then those in between elections, midterm elections, and then who's supporting on these big tickets in every 4 years. And so I truly hope that all of you take that in consideration and do your homework because I think we can really make a difference. And it doesn't matter. I swear it does not matter if you're a Democrat or Republican when it comes to that. This is about basic human rights. This is about getting help to people when help is needed. There is nothing political or should be nothing political about FEMA and the Red Cross. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, there should never be anything political about it, but look what's happening. I feel like it truly is. And, Samaritan's Purse and Glenn Beck's, I think someone just sent in, it's mercury1.org. Mercury1.org. I just clicked on it. It's great site. It says making a difference, help Hurricane Helene victims. It's the first thing up. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you from California for sending that. And I really appreciate so much you doing that. So it's mercury1.org. So I know we're going to have to take another break real quick, but when we come back, I got a clip that maybe be a little lighthearted and I think might take the focus off a little before we switch gears. I still want to get to the issue at the port and everything. I got some clips I want to play about that, but you might like what I'm going to play for you in a little bit. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, They want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Higher prices for groceries? Yep, as the dock worker strike goes on. And we'll tell you what one legislator has to say about claims that the Fed is stealing hurricane donations. Those stories at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back to the Chris Hands Show. I am filling in for him today as he's a little bit under the weather. This is Jennifer Sheets, and I host a show on the weekends called Master the Workforce and help out from time to time in here. And I just want to thank everybody for the grace you have given me as I fill in to this beautiful audience that loves Chris as they should. He's amazing, amazing man. I'm loving the Super Talks text line. I keep saying that, Mason. I get tongue-tied when I try to say that fast. It just doesn't work. But you all are on fire today. I literally, if I tried to respond to everybody and bring up everything, oh my gosh, we could do another 3-hour show. You all are on point today, on point. And I apologize if I missed some of what you're bringing up and everything, but I will get to it. I'll get as much to it as I can for sure. But I wanted to lighten things up for just a quick second because, and then I want to give some information out that is an extremely amazing that someone sent about a hurricane relief truck and how to get a hold of them. So I cannot wait to bring this up and let you know so you can write it down, all the things so we can try and help out a little bit more. But there was a clip that surfaced of Rob Schneider, used to be on Saturday Night Live. And I know most of you that follow along, and if you're, conservative, ever know that Rob has broken away from Hollywood, that he talks about how people in Hollywood are definitely not given work and everything. It comes out that they are a Republican or conservative, or even if you have a conservative view on a specific issue. And, here we watched Ms. Harris, Kamala, go out for one time yesterday in Georgia to talk to a few people. And then, of course, now she's in Wisconsin today doing her thing, trying to get people to vote for her in 30 days. And I just thought this was really kind of funny because I think it was on the Brian Kilmeade show. And Rob Schneider does an impression of Kamala of how he thinks that she sounds when she talks. And so I was just thinking, can you imagine meeting her in person? Like if you meet her now if you're in the ravaged area and she gets enough heat and she decides to go back, I don't know how you keep a straight face, but go ahead, Mason, see if you can play this clip.
The fact that she stumbles over every ad-lib line, refusing to do interviews, you should have fun.
She
with
talks
that.
like Christopher Walken, because Christopher Walken, you never know when he's going to keep talking or stop. And you have Kamala has the same way. To be unburdened, depending on what accent she wants to use, to be unburdened by what has been, and I think she's she either thinketh too much or can't think at all, and I think that's it's somewhere in between. But
hey, Mason, what'd you think of that?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Now I can't unhear it.
Yeah, it's what we like to call a word salad every time she talks, and it's my favorite description of our vice president,
of
for sure.
The word salad. And I thought we have to lighten this up for a second because we have been at it since I entered this room on this microphone at 9 o'clock, just kind of continuing on from Dan's show today, because there's just so much going on. And because this directly it affects us, everything does directly affect us. But since everything with the hurricane and the fact that they've just blown over it, literally no pun intended, I'm like, we got to talk about this and get people help. So I had someone texted, this is beautiful. It's called Friends and Family, CVMATN, and it's Hurricane Relief Truck. It is leaving Monday, October 7th, and it's going to deliver to the Army National Guard in Bristol. Okay, so this is huge. So what I'm going to do is when we take the break at the bottom of the hour in news, I'm going to pull this all together so we can bring it up a few times. If you guys want to know how to reach these individuals, it looks like there's a Facebook page. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to text in. I don't care if I'm wrong. I want to get this right. But there are going to be donation drop-off locations in Sumner County, Sumner Roofing and Exteriors, and that will be Tuesday through Thursday and Friday. There'll be Wilson County main drop-off locations, which is going to be like Coach's Eastgate Grill, and that will start Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In Rutherford County at Bumpus Harley, and that's going to be Tuesday through Friday. MTSU Charlie and Hazel Daniels Veterans Center. There'll be drop-off points there. And Coffee County, Franklin County, the VFW. I think this is absolutely huge. The point of contact for that is Irene Mamacita. I say MAMASITA Aguirre. And that number, just throwing it out there, is 615-509-6634. That's 615-509-6634 to get a hold of Irene. So that's a hurricane relief truck. So to the point of one of our wonderful listeners has said I have extra dishes and all the items that you might need to rebuild or keep you in a place that you have to stay that maybe don't have any access to that, where you have a kitchen but you have nothing to cook with, or whatever the case is. Make sure that you know that this hurricane relief truck is heading out to East Tennessee, to Bristol, and we'll pull everything together at the bottom of the hour so that it's more succinct and easy for you to follow, and that we can all pass it along and help out and everything. And I think that it's just wonderful you all are sharing all the things that we can do to try and help everybody, because again, that is going to be absolutely the most important thing that we do, and that we get out of this next, this last hour. If it reaches out and there's maybe 5,000 or 10,000 of us more that decided, hey, we're going to bypass FEMA and Red Cross and we're going to get help directly to the people that need it, then that's what we did. And we're going to be able to help out today. And we can feel good about it, and we can get our brothers and sisters back on track again. So we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take the news break. When we come back, it's the port. Let's talk about that. You're listening to the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 10:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're heading up to the mid-80s today. Got the forecast coming in a couple of moments. Right now in Tennessee, the Tennessee death toll from Hurricane Helene stands at 11 as crews continue their search and rescue, or in some cases, recovery operations.
There is a tremendous amount of work to do. The damage, the loss of life, there are people still missing. There's a great deal of effort to reunify those who are unaccounted for. There has been significant loss of life already, and we don't know where that's headed.
Governor Lee there saying almost 400 National Guardsmen are on the ground in Hurricane Helene-ravaged eastern counties of Tennessee, operating airlifts with Blackhawks delivering necessary supplies like water to residents that have been cut off. Well, Governor Lee's request for an expedited major disaster declaration, it was approved by the federal government yesterday, and that means survivors in the declared counties can apply for help with things like rental assistance and home repair, also personal property replacement. FEMA is warning flooding victims to be aware of people who show up at the door offering to help. In some cases, thieves try to apply for FEMA assistance too, using names, addresses, and social security numbers they have stolen from people affected by the disaster. Well, as for accusations that FEMA is stealing some of the donations, Tennessee State Representative Jeremy Faison says that's false.
FEMA hasn't taken anything from anybody. That's just it's a social media rumor.
Faison appearing this morning with Dan Mandis. While FEMA is honest, Faison says that they were slow to respond to East Tennessee calls for help. A dock workers strike affecting more than a dozen major ports from Texas to Maine enters the third day today, and both sides say they're at an impasse. More than 40,000 members of the Longshoremen's Association walked off the job Tuesday. They're demanding higher wages, 77% more, and better job security. The group representing the dock workers' employers say they're focused on getting back to the negotiating table. ABC's Elizabeth Schultz is outside of the port of Elizabeth in New Jersey.
Analysts expect you'll start to see pressure on the prices you pay or possible shortages if this lasts another 1 to 2 weeks. And the first place that would be hit is groceries, especially fresh produce, including 75% of the nation's banana supply. Those foods spoil, so retailers couldn't stock up ahead of time. We could also see higher prices for alcohol. 80% of imported beer, wine, and whiskey comes through East and Gulf Coast ports.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
And welcome back to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am your host, Jennifer Sheets. I'm just filling in for Chris while he's a little under the weather today, so don't worry, he will be back. But we're all helping each other out this week, and boy, has it been crazy with all of the news going on. And I just a shout out to the audience of the Chris Hand Show. Listeners, you are fantastic. I'm so excited about how hot the super text line is. Oh, I said it that time without stumbling over my words, Mason. I can't say that fast. But if you want to join in the conversation at 615-737-9986, we want to hear from you. But one of my most important things, because we're going to jump in the port, I've been saying this for like an hour and a half, but hey, this is your show, everybody. I take your lead. Whatever you want to talk about, what the hottest stuff is, we're going to go after it because I think together we can make a difference. And there's a few things, and I know I'm missing some. So as we take breaks, I'm going to try to write a little list down. And I think what we need to do, Mason, is make sure we let people know that we got to put it up on our website, Facebook pages and everything. So there's a lot of places to drop off to help in East Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. Christchurch, Nashville on Old Hickory Boulevard, they will be collecting donations. They are actually for right now for the Black Mountain Home for Children and Families. They're going to be taking a convoy tomorrow morning with trucks and trailers to deliver provisions, and they're going to find a way to get them into the mountains. So if people want to donate, they can actually bring it by the church by noon today. I know it's getting close to noon, but if you live close to there, I mean, you can do it. I know you can do it. I know how crazy people drive in Nashville and surrounding areas, so I know we can do it. But they can also go to ccnash.org and donate monetarily, and then, of course, that money would go to buying provisions and getting the trucks and trailers to North Carolina. Again, let's go back to Samaritan's Purse. That's and Glenn Beck's mercury1.org. You can do that. There's also Westview Church of Christ in Lewisburg, Tennessee. They are filling a semi-trailer with tools, gloves, cleaning supplies. Trailer will be there until Monday. So many more than that. I will get to them. I don't want to miss this. And whatever I do end up missing, and I apologize ahead of time, we need to put this list together from our amazing listeners that are out there and get it up on, at the very least, get it up on our Facebook pages and social media so people, no matter where you live or where you are, you can help. So that's super important. But I've got to jump in on the port situation. And I kind of feel like a little bit of this is my wheelhouse because, you know, I've had a company that's given people jobs every day for the last 24 years and 9 months and have worked in about every industry. One of my favorite ones that I work in is in logistics, and drivers, truck drivers, line haul drivers have my heart. And but this that's going on at the port, the ILS, the union, everything. I wanted Mason to play a clip. I got a couple of them, and I was trying to be very selective of what I played so we could talk about things. But I'm going to let you play the first one so everyone can hear. This is, I believe, the gentleman that's the head of the union for the port. And by the way, when he plays it, you'll get to hear. And he's going to talk about what they want and what they're going to do if they don't get it, and what it's going to do to everybody if they don't get what they want. And that's the scary part of it, if you ask me, because if they don't give you what you want, it's already affecting everybody. And here we have these people that are hurting right now. This is insane. I mean, so do you got it ready? Are you okay? Okay. All right. He's going to play it.
When my men hit the streets from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are.
Okay, so first, let's dig into this for a second, because we can think we know what's going on, but I always say the devil's in the details, no matter what. This is 45,000 workers from 36 ports, and I agree. It's kind of hard listening to the guy talking because I feel like, you know, he sounds like he's, you know, selling something like insurance or a car. Oh, someone just put that in the text line. The guy sounds like an insurance salesman. Yep, that's exactly right. And he's been very methodical about what he's saying. And it's almost like it's a very much, you can hear it in his voice. It's a fear tactic for sure to be able to get his workers what he feels that they deserve. So it's 45,000 workers from 36 ports. Basically, JP Morgan, which I know you might think, well, what do I care about JP Morgan? Well, JP Morgan has their hands as a banking institution in so many things behind the scenes that we all just can't even fathom. They could be losing $5 billion a day. That's with a B. $5 billion a day. So if you don't think that that's going to affect prices, which I'm sure you do, but I mean, I'm just kind of painting a picture to get to this next part. The industries that are going to be impacted: from chemicals, medical equipment, food, clothing, furniture, iron, steel, machinery, and vehicles. Okay, so let's talk about that. Chemicals, medical equipment, food, clothing, furniture, iron, steel, machinery, and vehicles. Now, we're talking about this. They've locked up all the ports, East Coast down through the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's starting to turn violent. Last night at the Baltimore port, the police were there and they were telling those that were protesting, you can't block entrance in and out. Like you can't block the trucks from getting in and out. And one gentleman, he had to get through. He actually does cleanup. He cleans up around there. He wasn't even really taking product in or out. He goes in and takes his truck in and he picks up all the waste or the boxes, the pallets that are broken, whatever in that area, and he loads them up and takes them out. And the picture, because obviously we're radio, I have to describe this, so you can look this up online. The picture, he's got a cut on his head. He's got blood running down his face, and his truck, he said, was swarmed the second that he got in there to go do what he was supposed to be doing. And this was them talking about the violence in the Baltimore port. This was the Baltimore News talking about it. And
circles now. Baltimore police were here earlier reminding the picketers that they cannot block the entrance to the port. The longshoremen walked off the job at 12:01 a.m. There was confusion and anger as picketers initially tried to stop trucks from entering, and it did turn violent.
I come here for 7 years. I pulled the trash and the debris out of here for the Port of Baltimore, and the officer told me to come back and go in there to get out of my way, and they attacked me and broke the windshield and serrated my face. Look at it.
Now, we don't know exactly what happened. The union members said the truck hit one of the picketers as they swarmed around it. We did see an ambulance come to assist, and we know that that gentleman did speak with police officers. Again, we'll let the authorities sort out exactly what happened there.
So listening to this, it was... not only was it shocking listening, but seeing it even more. And when it was late last night, and I happened to have the Fox News on or whatever, and then I switched over to watching like the channels that put their news up on YouTube, and I went to the Baltimore area, and so their local news was doing a story, and they kept replaying it. And as she's talking, you can see people pushing each other behind where they're doing their little circle around. And I thought, okay, if they're so upset, I really wanted to get to the crux of what is really going on. Were they really treated so poorly that they felt the need to do this and shut the country down right now, 30 days before an election and after a major hurricane that is it's the third most catastrophic hurricane to hit our country? And it says, so the current top wage amounts to the longshoremen are about $81,000 a year. But according to Waterfront Commission of New York Harbor report that about a third of the local longshoremen made $200,000 or more a year. So let that sink in for a second. So about a third of local longshoremen made $200,000 more a year. And however, that pay does come with extreme hours. I will say that even the ILA president, Harold Daggett, told the Associated Press that many of the workers earning high wages work up to 100 hours a week. With that being said, my father, I grew up in Michigan, and I've been in Tennessee. I've been in Nashville for 27 years, so I feel like I'm just here anyway. And again, that dates me. But my dad was a tool and die maker and worked in the union. And I know that there are so many valid reasons that the union was started and everything. And I don't argue any of those things. What I'm saying is when, for example, my dad had one time where, your strike pay is very little. Like he was getting maybe 40, 50 cents on the day back then. I mean, I was probably 10 or 11 years old at the time, but they were not picketing or striking because they weren't being treated fairly. They were because they didn't like the choices in the vending machine. And so we have to kind of figure out, that's why I wanted to get to the bottom of this, because I thought if you're shutting down the country and you have, 36,000 to 45,000 workers that want to go off the job, what is something must be really horrible is what I'm thinking. And then apparently, it's the agreement. The agreement they can't come to has to do with the wage and where the jump is going to be in the wage over a course of the next 4 or 5 years. And the difference is kind of between like a $20 an hour to $26 an hour to where they want to be at the 40 and 50 range. And then nobody's sitting in the middle somewhere. So it's just straight negotiations. But what I don't like is the violence, because people, when you go on strike, there are other people that have to do their jobs. There are other people that rely on you to do what you do. And I know that's the point of it, before everyone just beats me up about that. I get that's the point of the strike. But at the same time, when you have someone that's just coming in to take trash out and you swarm his vehicle and you throw stuff through the glass and you cut his face open, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? And the fact that we are so disconnected to that right now is disturbing to me. So I'll take a couple calls. I've got Tracy out in Mount Juliet. Tracy, welcome to the Chris Ann Show.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on another location.
Oh, sure. Yes, please. Most important thing we can do today.
Absolutely. So we have the market at 109, which is in Lebanon. If you look it up on Facebook, the market at 109. TriStar Moving is going to have a moving truck there from 10 to 2, and you can load all your stuff up right there in the truck, and they're going to take that truck down to East Tennessee.
Fantastic. Can you repeat that one more time, where that's going to be at?
Yes, it's the market at 109. It's a farmer's market. And that's in Lebanon, Tennessee. And you can get the address and location there on Facebook. It's actually by the train station at the Martha Level location.
Oh, sure. Yep. I know where that's at.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
TriStar Moving is going to have a truck there from 10 to 2 this Saturday. And you can load anything you have, and they're also taking donations as well.
Oh, Tracy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the show, being patient on the line while we talked about what's going on in the port. And that is the most important thing we can do today is listen to people telling where you can go donate, where you can give your items to help the victims of the hurricane. And I'm just so thankful that we can be that voice for everyone, so we can make a difference. So we got to take a quick break, but I've got some calls lined up. I want to get to my callers right after the break, and you're listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Ashland City, Cheatham. We've got Ed Harris Road between Lockertsville Road and Highway 49 closed due to police activity. In Dixon, we've got an overturned truck. It is blocking the left lane of 40 westbound just past the Centerville-Dixon Highway 40 weight exit. That is stop-and-go traffic from that Centerville-Dixon Highway 46 exit 172. All the top stories coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And welcome back to the Chris Hand Show, and welcome, Ken. How are you?
Good morning there, Jennifer.
I love hearing your voice. It was great to see you Tuesday night as well.
Yeah, we had a good old time.
We did. We solved all the world's problems that night, didn't we?
Right there at the bar.
Right there at the bar. Our favorite place to be, right? I want to thank everybody for listening. I'm telling you, Chris Hand is phenomenal. He's always been one of the kindest, sweetest people at the station to me. Dan has just been phenomenal to me. Matt, I can't say enough about the gentleman here and all of the people that make everything work, from Ken and Mason and Belle, everybody. And I say all this because you guys have shown me so much grace, and I appreciate it as I fill in because, Chris is just under the weather today, so I'm just kind of coming in and helping out. But boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I have a lot of people lined up calling. I have a lot of people on the super text line. This is exciting because this show is about you, but only have like a minute before we have to take a break for news at the top of the hour. But if you'll hang on the phones with me and you'll hang in the text line, we're going to get to all of you when you come back. And I got something big I want to share with you that has to do with all of this and the automation issue at the ports are the other reason why everyone is striking and what that leads into Elon Musk and a press conference he had 6 days ago that nobody's talking about. And you'll want to talk about it after I play it. So you are listening to the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. One thing I failed to mention there giving that traffic is the westbound South Loop. That is going to be a problem until the 15th of this month because they're doing some construction. So that off-ramp to 65 is only down to one lane, and that's really backing up that South Loop going westbound. We got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. FEMA is warning flooding victims in Tennessee and elsewhere. Beware of people showing up at the door offering to help. In some cases, thieves are trying to apply for FEMA assistance using names, addresses, Social Security numbers they have stolen from actual victims. As for accusations that FEMA is stealing some of the donations, Tennessee State Representative Jeremy Faison says they're false claims.
FEMA hasn't taken anything from anybody. That's just it's a social media rumor.
And while FEMA is honest, Faison says they're slow to respond to East Tennessee calls for help. Right now in hard-hit Georgia, the governor, Brian Kemp.
Previously, the worst storm Georgia Power had ever dealt with, they had 1,700 poles that needed to be replaced. Currently, there are over 8,000 that have to be replaced.
Yeah, Governor Kemp there, where President Biden's headed today to see Helene destruction. Biden also going to Florida. No hint of progress in talks aimed at ending the big port strike.
The International Longshoremen's Association is demanding more than a wage increase. Its members claim that automation is costing jobs, but because automation means efficiency,
that's something the ports will not negotiate.
University of New Orleans economics professor Walter Lane says a strike of a week shouldn't affect consumer prices.
It goes on much longer than that, as there seem to be indications it will. These impacts will get bigger and bigger.
That's Jim Ryan reporting. Before departing the White House today to tour the hurricane damage in Florida and Georgia, President Biden was asked about the vice presidential debate. And guess who he says was not the loser?
No, he didn't. And by the way, the other guy lost the debate. He misrepresented everything.
Yeah, he says Tim Walz came out the winner, according to Biden. Former First Lady Melania Trump reportedly writes in her upcoming memoir that abortion is a, quote, woman's fundamental right, clashing with her husband's views on the issue. The excerpts were obtained exclusively by The Garden. They have not been verified by ABC News. So far, no comment from the Trump campaign. Here's Rachel Scott.
The former president is behind Vice President Kamala Harris when it comes to likely female voters, and he's tried to change his messaging on the campaign trail, vowing to be a protector for women. And of course, it was just days ago that his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, said that Republicans have to do more to earn the trust back from Americans and female voters on the key issue of reproductive rights.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
And welcome to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Ken, I'm so glad that you're here. Someone said, can you please get Ken to say good morning, boys? So I don't know if Ken can hear me, but we need to have him say that. And I just want to let you know that I'm only just filling in for Chris because he's a little under the weather. But we have been having quite the discussion the last couple hours. It is a hot day. The Super Talk text line. The listeners are amazing on Chris Hand's show. Chris, you have a fantastic audience. They are here to make things happen, make a difference, let us know what they think, and the lines are lit up, and I'm here for it. So I really want to jump into some things I teased before we had to take the news break at the top of the hour about having to do with the port, the strike, and a press conference, or an interview, I should say, that Elon Musk had 6 days ago that you will want to hear. But let's take a couple callers that have been patiently waiting. So I'd like to go to Keith. He's on the road right now. Keith, welcome to the Chris Hand Show.
Hey, Jennifer, you're doing a fantabulous job.
Oh, I appreciate that, Keith. Thank you. What's on your mind today? We want to hear everything.
Getting an echo somehow.
Hey, that's okay. That's
I'm sorry. Just
no, that's
okay.
okay.
Let me turn this off and see if I can get rid of it. There we go.
We want to hear what you have to say, Keith. You've been so sweet and patient. Tell us what you have. What's on your mind? We want to know.
Well, I heard that union boss say that those were his jobs. So that kind of set me off because those jobs were created by the company, whoever they're working for. That's the first thing. And I don't have anything against unions. I've got friends that are Teamsters and musician union and different things. But since we have so many laws now for labor and everything that they didn't have back in the 1800s and early 1900s when a lot of these unions were, the idea of unions was started to come to fruition. I just don't know. I think they're more of a strong arm kind of part of labor. And, I just wonder if some of these corporations, like the corporation for the ports, could, I don't know, start another corporation, sell their assets over there to that corporation and don't take the contract and then bring in other people and get past having to deal with the unions, really, is what I wonder, if they could do something like that.
Well, what it needs, everything needs to come together because, and Keith, thank you so much for holding and joining us on the line because, you're right. We have to come to some kind of agreement and not shut everything down. But there's another side to this too, which the other reason they're striking has to do with automation. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I do thank you, Keith, again for listening. And you're right. I mean, we got to do something. And Mike, you're on the road and we want to welcome you to the Chris Hand Show. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good. Good morning, Jennifer. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Hey, I'm a truck driver. I'm up here in Philadelphia right now. This whole union thing, you sparked something in me earlier when you were talking about your dad was in a union.
Yes.
My dad was in a union for 33 years. I remember as a child in the 70s watching him stick his pistol in his pocket. They were setting skunks loose in the plant, following people home, threatening to burn their cars and their houses down and stuff if they didn't get their way.
Yep.
Let's be clear, okay? That's called extortion, intimidation, and that union boss, he sounds like a mob boss. If a mafia family goes into a neighborhood and starts making threats and stuff, that if they don't get their way, they're not going to protect that neighborhood, how is that any different than what's going on with these guys? I mean, they shut down the air traffic controllers, when they started all their nonsense, and like the former caller said there, things aren't the way they used to be. And so all they're doing is intimidating and extorting, and I have nothing for those kind of people. Nothing.
I appreciate your take on that, Mike, because, and you understood. First of all, I want to thank you for driving because people don't understand that what makes the supply chain move are these truck drivers out there, and we should be thanking them for their service as well. They were the lifeline during COVID. They still are. So, by the way, thank you so much for calling in and listening to the show. I've had so many people text. Again, our Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986, referring to the same thing, kind of sounded like a mobster or whatnot. And I think it's just more of him trying to get the point across of what they will and won't do and what will happen. So people are, putting some attention on that. And I want to go to Ken in Nashville. Ken, welcome to the Chris Hand Show.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Absolutely, Ken.
Don't have much to say about the ports except most of the stuff is controlled anyhow. And if you study Keynesian economics, like increasing rates doesn't do a lot. And creating jobs for people unnecessarily doesn't do a lot to help our economy either. But that's all I got to say about that. I do want to comment on millennial and the woman's reproductive rights. I think it's been miscategorized. I think that what we should call it by the correct name, the right to terminate life. I mean, under what conditions does another person have to terminate a life? Now, and that's what you're doing. Actually, after conception, there is life there, and do you have a right to terminate that life, and under what conditions? I don't know the answer, but I do know that I think that we ought to call it what it really is. And it's not women's rights or reproductive rights or whatever you want to call it, the liberals want to call it, or a lot of people want to call it. It's the right to terminate life. That's exactly what you're asking. That's what they're asking for.
Well, Ken,
so just your comments on that.
Absolutely. Ken, thank you again for calling the show, listening to Chris Hand Show. We appreciate it and appreciate you weighing in on that. I think that's the one, like you could tell during the debate, that the subject of abortion was very touchy for both sides. This is one of those things that, you find polarizing one way or the other. And that's what's interesting is is us being able to have a conversation about it. And I'm glad that he called in to say how he feels about it. And I think that one of the things that's the most important as you go to the voting booth in 30 days is if you want to keep that opinion to yourself or if you want to share it with anybody, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do in that voting booth is going to determine how you feel about that. And that's what matters. And you need to, now that things have been given, unless it gets overturned, if Ms. Harris gets in office, Roe versus Wade has gone to the state level, then you should be paying attention to who you're electing at the local and state level. But I have 2 more calls I'm going to take, and then I got a clip. I need you to hear this because this is going to be kind of referring to what we're talking about in the automation side of why the union is striking at the port. So would like to go to Gary in Greenbrier. Hi, Gary. Thanks for listening today.
Well, thank you. And yes, like everyone else, you are doing a great job.
Oh, thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Well, what's on your mind today?
Well, I was in the Marines 71 to 75.
Oh, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I went to college, and I was sitting in a class, and I think it was a sociology class, I can't remember, or economics. And this one young boy, he was bragging about how his dad, who was in the union as a longshoreman, said that, if you don't join the union and you want to be a longshoreman, something could drop on top of you, like a big crate or something coming off the ship. And I told him, I looked at him, I'm 22 and he's 18 or 19. I said, tell you what, buddy, right in front of the class and professor, I didn't wear a uniform for 4 years, lay my life on the line as a Marine, just to sit in a classroom and hear you say that an American doesn't have a choice about where they work, and so they're going to get hurt or killed, and you're proud of it, and your dad's made you proud of it. I don't like it.
That's powerful, Daryl.
So that was my contribution. And I know unions are important, and I know why they started. But by golly, you don't threaten people and say, you know what, if you don't do this after you've become a longshoreman, you're going to get killed or hurt. No.
I am telling you, Daryl, what you just said was profound. You sharing about how you did that. Thank you for calling and holding on, by the way, Daryl. And again, thank you for your service. Daryl brings up a amazing point. Everybody's bringing up great points. But here's the thing: when you're a veteran, you're sitting in a classroom and someone's telling you how it should and shouldn't be. When you're the one that put your life on the line, that's huge. That's huge, and it holds a lot of weight. That's why I consistently say that people in education need to take education more than what's in a book so that we can share with our up-and-coming generation enough information fair on both sides for them to make determinations of what they want to do. But I need to get to this clip because the automation side of what's going on is crazy. And I've been talking about this for a long time. As a matter of fact, if you listen to my show on Sundays, I've had one of the biggest, polarizing conversations that happens, and sometimes people tell me stop talking about it, and other people say I want to hear more about it. Has to do with responsibly integrating AI into society, which also includes the automation. So what has been predicted is that within about 4 to 5 years that 575 million jobs will be automated. And when those jobs are automated, it's going to be like the upside down effect, like the movie Stranger Things, where you're going to have so many people that are outplaced that don't have transitional skills to the positions that will become available, which will not be in the same amount of those as there were before, because the whole idea, right, of automating and AI is that you need less people and you rely more on technology. So Elon Musk had an interview 6 days ago, and I would love for Mason to play this, because it left the audience speechless. So if you don't mind, Mason, let's see if it leaves our audience speechless.
But I think this year was that there have been a number of breakthroughs. I mean, the point at which someone can see a dynamically created video of themselves, like somebody can make a video of you saying anything in real time, or me. And so there's sort of the deepfake videos, which are really incredibly good. In fact, sometimes more convincing than real ones, and deep real. And then obviously things like ChatGPT were quite remarkable. Now I saw GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT-4, the whole sort of lead up to that. So it was easy for me to kind of see where it's going. If you just sort of extrapolate the points on a curve and assume that trend will continue, then we will have profound artificial intelligence, and obviously at a level that far exceeds human intelligence. But I'm glad to see at this point that people are taking safety seriously, and I'd like to say thank you for holding this AI safety conference. I think actually it will go down in history as being very important. I think it's really quite profound. And I do think overall that the potential is there for artificial intelligence, AI, to have most likely a positive effect. It is good for government to play a role when the public safety is at risk. So, really for the vast majority of software, the public safety is not at risk. I mean, if the app crashes on your phone or your laptop, it's not a massive catastrophe. But when you're talking about digital superintelligence, I think, which does pose a risk to the public, then there is a role for government to play to safeguard the interests of the public.
Okay, so let's look at that a minute, because there's going to be another clip that I'm going to play, and I don't know if I'll get enough time to play that before we have to take another break. But what he's talking about is he left the audience speechless. It was an interview with Rishi Sunak for the AI Safety Summit that was at Bletchley Park. And they discussed the political and social impacts of this technology, which included if you go want to listen to the interview, he talks about automation, even from the types of material and automating you do from physical jobs like unloading in a port or trucks or all of those things. But what was crazy was him discussing the political impact and social impact of the technology. So he was labeling digital superintelligence as the most disruptive force in history. And he did say that he thought that government oversight was essential and that the public safety was at risk. Now, here's a man who's created this, who started with the ChatGPT and then warned people about ChatGPT and the AI that he had. And again, I talk about this on my show a lot because we're integrating and using every day these tools, but it's more in depth. There is actually another clip that I'll have to wait to play to have to break. And I also have someone waiting on the line I want to get to too. But the clip is about a tiny explosive drone capability that we have right now. And when you hear that coupled with the other, this is why everybody's just kind of trying to wake up. Okay, what does one have to do with the other? And I want to put the pieces of that puzzle together for you a little bit today. So we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, let's hear the rest of that. Let's go to our caller. Everybody keep texting. I love it all. Appreciate it. And you're listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
All right, still got the westbound South Loop downtown backed up because of the construction to go southbound on 65. Then in Cheatham County, we've got a road closed because of police activity. This is Ed Harris Road between Lockertsville Road and Highway 49. Good news here is that a suspect is in custody, according to police. Then an overturned truck blocking the left lane, 40 westbound, just past the Centerville-Dixon Highway 48 exit 163. All the top stories in the world coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken, for filling us in. I know everyone was a little worried about traffic. I've been getting some texting on it, so thank you. You are listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7. I am filling in for him just today because he's a little bit under the weather. I'm my host, Jennifer Sheets, and we've been talking about the port, the union, everything. And then I played a little clip that Elon Musk had done an interview about 6 days ago talking about how we need to be talking about AI safety and that it is a danger to the public type of thing, like just crazy. But I want to go to my caller first, Daryl in Lebanon. I want to talk to you real quick, and then I got some other things I want to play for you that'll kind of tie this all together. So, Daryl, thank you for being so patient. I'm so thankful
You're
that
welcome.
you called in today. What would you like to share with us? Shed some light on the world, please, Daryl.
Well, I don't know about Baltimore, but I know here in Tennessee, if something like that happened, I carry a weapon with a high-capacity magazine. It would have went really bad for somebody breaking my windows out. And that would be lethal force as much as it takes to stop the threat.
You know, you are not the only one I know that is a driver that does carry, and I understand it completely. I mean, there's been times where I know that people have went to do a delivery and they've been bombarded on all sides and their truck gets taken over. You know, so I mean, it's dangerous job out there.
When they shut 40 down, the BLM shut 40 down not too long ago, standing in the middle of the interstate. There would have been some dead people if I'd have been on the interstate.
I appreciate Daryl.
I don't stop doing 80 miles an hour.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your take on that, and thank you for waiting on hold. This is a hot button topic. It's been phones lit up, text messages going crazy. So thank you, Daryl, so much. Appreciate all that you do, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit before we play this last clip about this, because I looked up in the break. I was kind of looking like, what exactly are the longshoremen worried about being automated? But it says, you know, the ILA, the International Longshoremen Association, they're demanding the ban on the automation of the cranes, the gates, and the trucks that move the containers in the U.S. ports. So the ILA, of course, is concerned the automation would replace the union jobs. So it says the ILA on strike, it said this is their first one since 1977. And, of course, the timing is impeccable, right? But the union's asking for a 77% pay raise over the life of their contract, as well as stronger job protections. And then the ILA claims that the United States Maritime Alliance, which represents the shipping lines and the port terminals, wants to fully automate the terminals and get rid of the union jobs. So the ILA says that the USMX is offering to keep the contract language on automation unchanged. But for them, of course, that's not enough. And then it says that the ILA says that the robots don't pay taxes, serve the community, or spend money in the community, but that the ILA does. So it's very interesting to me that, you know, you have the automation piece, which I think many of us could kind of relate to, but then you have this whole other amount of money. I don't know. I guess it's relative to what they're making now, and maybe they obviously feel like they deserve a lot more money, and that's great. But I don't know anybody that gets a 77% raise. Sign me up, I guess, if they do. But it's important to understand what is behind it. And in between all of this, Lori texted me, RPMC, Lori texted me that Fox just put up a little, I guess, like a little caption, a little picture, whatever. And interesting enough, it says the FEMA spending on migrant shelter and services. So in 2023, the amount was $363,800,000. And in 2024, it's $650 million. It's double. Just wanted to say that really quick. Someone just said how many ports were damaged by the storm. I'd like to know. We'll look that up. We'll get some answers on that so we can talk about that as well. But Mason, I don't know. Do we have time to play that other clip? We do. Okay. I want you to hear this other clip that goes along with what I was talking about, Elon Musk and technology and these drones.
Here's a quadcopter the size of your palm that can hunt down and kill its prey without human intervention. All thanks to real-time data mining and AI.
Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works.
I'm going to share with you all while this is going that this is a tiny.
Did you see that?
It's like a little square.
Which Elon Musk has previously warned us about.
Be used in some fairly destructive ways.
You can make a swarm of assassin drones for very little money by just taking the Face ID chip that's used in cell phones and having a small explosive charge and a standard drone, and have them just do a grid sweep of the building until they find the person they're looking for, ram into them, and explode. You can do that right now. No new technology is needed. Right.
Okay, so this is why I'm kind of pulling this all together here. It is for the reason of, we talk about automation. This is half of the reason why the longshoremen are striking. And it just kind of begs a question, like we just had, where I think they had the pagers, right, that all exploded and from what was going on in the Middle East, this technology that's here, this technology that's available to us. And I think people are starting to get really concerned about, is this going to take over jobs? How's this going to automate? Now, do I think that the way that the longshoremen are doing the strike right now and how people have crossed the line and they've been hurt is right? Absolutely not. But we need to talk about this just a little bit more and wrap it up. And one more thing we're going to get into when we close out the half hour. But you are listening to Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. An overturned truck blocking the left lane, 40 westbound. This is in Dixon. That's going to be right there at the Centerville-Dixon Highway 48 exit. Now, it's stop and go starting at exit 172. That crash is there at 163. So that is now a 2-hour delay if you're going westbound 40 west of Nashville in Dixon. Hurricane Helene related deaths have risen in this nation to at least 200 now. President Biden headed to Florida and Georgia today to survey the damage. In Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp just said nearly 2,000 National Guard members are assisting with recovery efforts there.
Loading water into trucks, chainsaw cut teams clearing roads, clearing lines for power companies, distributing meals, getting pods set up, just incredible work.
33 deaths have been confirmed in Georgia. Here in Tennessee, the death toll is 11, with dozens still missing. Flags at the state capitol here in Tennessee at half staff for the flood victims. In Memphis, the jury has begun deliberations in the Tyree Nichols case. 3 former black Memphis police officers face life in prison if convicted in Nichols' beating death. They have all pleaded not guilty. And right now in New Jersey,
we're willing to take on the world if we have to.
That's International Longshoremen's Association Executive Vice President Dennis Dackett rallying striking dock workers at Port Elizabeth. No end in sight. Now 3 into the strike. Here's Elizabeth Schulze on when consumers might feel the impact.
Analysts expect you'll start to see pressure on the prices you pay or possible shortages if this lasts another 1 to 2 weeks. And the first place that would be hit is groceries, especially fresh produce, including 75% of the nation's banana supply. Those foods spoil, so retailers couldn't stock up ahead of time. We could also see higher prices for alcohol. 80% of imported beer, wine, and whiskey comes through East and Gulf Coast ports.
It's a pretty cool Pink Floyd song behind her there. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
And welcome back to the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am your host, Jennifer Sheets, just filling in. Chris is a little under the weather today, so just want to let you know he'll be back. But I am honored and I feel privileged to be able to sit in today. And this audience and these listeners in the Chris Hand Show, you are all fantastic. Again, I've said this throughout the last couple hours, the grace that you have shown me, I appreciate it. I really, truly just want to be here in the same way that you all are, have a voice, bring attention to issues that are near and dear to us 30 days before what I think is going to be the most important election in our lifetime. And I want to always hear what you have to say. You're the lifeline, the lifeblood of this station, what we do in this world. We make the world go round. So I absolutely love them. Love all of you. Thank you. And we've been talking. So to kind of recap how we started and we're ending today is I really wanted to bring a lot of attention to Hurricane Helene and what's been going on, the lack of effort and lack of help that has been profound and disgusting, quite frankly, for the hurricane victims from Tennessee to North Carolina to Georgia to Florida, especially in Tennessee and North Carolina, I feel like. And you have all come to the rescue. Throughout the show, you have mentioned places where there's going to be drop-off points where we can drop off goods and supplies and everything, and places that we can donate our money other than the Red Cross and FEMA, where we could maybe be more assured that it gets to who it needs to. And we talked about how people have tried to helicopter in to help themselves and been told not to do it, and it's just mind-blowing. So we've kept some really great attention on that throughout our first couple hours today. And we jumped into talking about the port, the strike, how that's going to affect us, why Why are they striking? What do you think about the strike? And how long we feel it's going to last and the impact on it. And then diving into the AI automation side of it, because that is a part of it and kind of what you think about it. And then that's when I was playing the clip. I'd been saving it about the Elon Musk conference that he went to, the AI, and it was about 6 days ago, where he talked about intervention and how we have to be very careful and there should be government oversight. And so that's a little bit scary. Well, at least I think it is anyway. And so we've been playing all these things. We talked about the new tech that they have, that they're the tiny, tiny miniature drones that can do face recognition off of your cell phone right now. So someone can program it, put it in a little explosive. It just takes off and boom, that's it. You need to go see the visual. It was just like throw you on the floor. If you go look it up on YouTube of them actually showing it at work, it's just crazy. And it just scares me for our leaders, those that take a stand, that actually stand behind something and believe in something about what kind of capabilities and evil there is out there to keep people from having a voice. And so we have to pay attention in 30 days in this election. We have to pay attention to who we're putting in office, from the councilmen in the townships and cities you belong in to the state government, besides who you're putting in that office. Because at the end of the day, the things that we live in on a day-to-day basis, so much of how we feel the impact of that is determined by those at the local level and then on up. And so we have a job to do, everybody. Got to pay attention to those other people running for office so we can make a difference and make a change. And I want to appreciate everybody saying, too, that we need to put up on the website or on the Facebook page. I'm going to work on that when I get off air today. There are so many of you that were so kind and listed the places for the drop-offs and the help. And we want to put all that information in one place so that everybody can jump in and be a part of that solution and not the problem. And don't worry, we're from Tennessee. We're the volunteer state. Yeah, if they're not going to do something about it, we sure as heck will. So that's how I feel about that. But anyway, I have another clip that I wanted to play for you. It may seem kind of strange, but this kind of plays into me going into the end of the show of why everything kind of piling it all in, of why everything that we do, every decision we make, again, to say it over and over in 30 days is important. I know a lot of you have heard about this plane crash that happened. That was it was a plane that was going to Brazil. And I need you to hear this clip about it. And we're going to come back and circle this in, and then I'm going to take a caller before we head out on the next break. So I appreciate, Mason, if you want to throw that in there a minute so everyone can hear about this plane crash.
So you've probably seen the video of the plane spiraling out of control and crashing in Brazil, but did you see who was on it? I need everybody to share this immediately before I go any further, because I need every single person to know about this. Now, first of all, there were 62 people that unfortunately lost their lives in this plane crash, okay? But it's been confirmed that there were 8 different cancer doctors that were on this plane that were on the way to a specific conference. And we'll get to what kind of conference that was here in a minute. 15 doctors were scheduled to be on this flight, but allegedly 7 of them changed to an earlier departure. One of them said that there was a monitor showing them the wrong gate, and that there were others that realized they were in the wrong place as well. And when trying to get passes to get into the right gate, they apologized and said that they were too late and had to reschedule their flight. Now, this is the thing, right? This was a 2024 cancer and vaccine conference, you know? So that in itself really has me thinking, like, what? But here's the most important part, right? The aviation attorney and former inspector general for the United States Department of Transportation was asked to review what investigators will be examining in the wake of the crash of the ATR 72-500. Now, flight tracking data, right, shows that the French-made twin-engine turboprop plane dropped 17,000 feet in just 1 minute. That's pretty drastic, but wait. Now, Schiavo said that, in quotations, allegedly, there was no air traffic control communication. There was no mayday. There was no advice to the tower that they needed the airway cleared for them. Nothing. They had no time to communicate. Now, Schiavo agrees that Transport Canada may want to review its certification of the ATR 72 depending on the outcome of the investigation. She said she understands why someone will be cautious about flying this type of aircraft given renewed concerns about icing. She also said this, in quotations, fear is a very important emotion and feeling, and frankly, on an ATR and icing, after seeing that incident, I frankly wouldn't want to get in one either in icing. She also said this, in quotations, I could tell you after the 1995 report in the United States of America, where there was a terrible icing accident with the ATR, I wouldn't fly them. So then why the fuck were there 8?
Okay, so here's the thing about this. These cancer doctors were on their way to a vaccine, and convention, right? And from the fact that my son has had cancer 3 times, I know how important these are, especially when they come up, to these solutions. Like there's a lot of solutions going on. They talk about it. And this had to do with the CAR T-cell therapy. You don't have to know about any of this to look it up and say, why, Jen, did you play this clip? Because they were talking about what happened to the plane. We've been talking about this technology. We've been talking about how Elon Musk is just saying 6 days ago that the government should step in. There should be something we should be doing with that, right? So let's add these all up. We have the longshoremen upset about the automation. We have the strike going on. We have all these little pieces of the puzzle that are out there. And I know you guys have all heard this saying that be careful when something big goes on because there's always something else going on behind the scenes. Yesterday, nobody talked about the fact that Mexico just inaugurated and put into power the first woman president of Mexico. And right by her side was Jill Biden. Jill Biden was there. And all these little stories are coming around, like the one with all these cancer doctors just happened to be that we're coming up with something to develop this new thing, all gone in a plane crash, that there was no Mayday, nothing wrong with the plane. All of a sudden it just kind of pummeled out of the air. We talk about tech that's nanotech that can go and specifically kill somebody, go get somebody. And we talk about automation. How, is that going to take away jobs? It's like everybody pay attention. But I want to get to Stephen because Stephen's been so patiently waiting on the line. Stephen, I have a lot to think about, but hey, we got to get it all in before 30 days. So Stephen, welcome to the Chris Hand Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, very interesting about those doctors. There could be something going on there. On the strikers, I know unions are a good thing. They have been a good thing throughout the past to help, workers get better wages and have better rights at work. But for this to happen right at this time, right before an election and all this has got to be some kind of political thing here. They're making great money already, and they've been doing this for God knows how long, and they know what's about to happen in our country, either way, one way or the other. So I don't understand what this has got something to do with the union leadership that's going on over there. But I just want to say, I'm a truck driver myself, and these ports, when they shut down, I mean, a lot of people are going to feel this, but there are ways around this to where, we got cargo transport helos and things like this that can pretty much just pick them cargo containers up right off the ships and bring them in and drop them at a lot somewhere, at a distribution house or somewhere in a parking lot nearby. And those trucks can just hook right up to those things and take off with them. So, for them to be pulling this kind of stuff, man, with this disaster, especially in the area there in the east here, in a couple weeks to a month, it's really going to be bad. I mean, and thank God for the church and for Christians to be the one to step up again during a disaster, to the ones that step in and that actually do all the work and the help and contribute to everybody who needs it. Because, with the Dems in there, I'm sorry, but that's the whole thing about being a conservative, and the conservatism way is we need to save money. We need to have money aside for when things like this happen. And for this guy to be coming out and saying, oh, we're broke, we don't have no money to do anything. I mean, that just goes to show the failure of leadership in our administration, in this Biden-Harris administration. It's pretty sad, but yeah, prayers and thoughts to those out there in East Tennessee and North Carolina and Georgia and Florida. So we'll bounce back. We just got to hang in there with them,
Oh, Stephen, thank you so much. Thank you for hanging in with me to wait to share with us your thoughts today. We really appreciate you listening to the show. And yeah, thoughts and prayers, absolutely. That's number one goal. I know it was kind of funny because someone texted and said, are we doing conspiracy hour here on the radio? I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to say that things are just strange. I mean, it's just a wild it's a wild news cycle. And when you look at everything, it's hard not to try to connect dots sometimes, or maybe because there's so many crazy things, none of the dots are even connected, and we have to just address them all. But, someone said, I'm sure this Diddy story is just coincidence. Yeah. I mean, everything is just a little strange. And all I wanted to say was my big goal in 3 hours on this Chris Hand show today was to say, okay, let's talk about how we can get help to the hurricane victims. Let's talk about what's going on about, are we going to be seeing our supply chain, drivel up again, which clearly that's already happened. I had someone just messaged too that said that they were, I think they said they were in Manchester and they're already out of toilet paper and paper towel. And so people are just really reacting right now to the news. And that is the scary part, is that when that starts happening and then you feel like you have to because everyone else has, and it's just a domino effect. And I want us to take a step back, take a breath, because there's so much good in this world yet, so much good in this world. And it's up to us to bring it to the forefront and make sure that people are believing in one another and making a difference and making a change and helping each other out. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter in East Tennessee, North Carolina, or whatever, what side of the aisle you're on. They're people, they're human beings, and we all should be jumping in and helping. Boy, has the Chris Hand Show audience jumped in to answer that call. So we're going to take our last break before the top of the hour news, and you are listening to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome back to the Chris Hand Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It has been a wonderful last few hours here. I've been your host, Jennifer Sheets. Thank you for welcoming in, showing me some grace today as I fill in while Chris is under the weather. And I'm joined in studio by the amazing, incomparable, the GOAT, Matt Murphy.
Who's here?
Hi, Matt.
Who got here? Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. I love seeing you. I love us having conversation. We had a great time the other night at the watch party.
Was that not
it was
incredible?
Fantastic.
Was that not fun? It was a little bit crazy.
It was a little bit crazy, and then you were fantastic on Fox Nation when they talked to you.
You're very sweet.
You know, they want to come and hear what you have to say. Everybody
Well, I suppose. Well, I mean, what did you think of the debate? I have not had a chance to ask you.
Well, one thing I thought that they both had, seemed like they had some mutual respect for each other regardless, which it was nice because you could kind of get a little bit more to what they were thinking policy-wise. But I was talking at the top of the first hour that people made a drinking game out of the debate, out of the most common phrases that were said.
Right.
So when it was like immigration, chaos, and Trump, and then they said, come on, and then it was like you took one drink for the first time, 2 drinks for the next time.
You got to Uber home.
Got to Uber home.
Got to Uber home.
Yes, but it was good. It was nice to see it be a little bit, where I can actually hear what they're saying, but doggone it, you couldn't have 2 more polar opposite views of how things have transpired over the last 4 years.
Yeah, there's 2 different realities. That's what I said on Fox Nation, as a matter of fact, is it was a debate between fantasy and reality, in my opinion.
Right. That was a great way to put it.
And there are some that would suggest that there's a fantasy world that exists where you can allow millions upon millions of individuals to come into this country unvetted and unfettered, and that not have a negative impact on our nation. And regardless of what you think about the humanitarian issues, that is a big deal for a lot of people. I mean, forget the dogs and the cats and the eating and all of that. That's the biggest deal. But yeah, I mean, it's the world that we live in right now.
What question do you think that should have been asked that did not get asked?
Gosh. I wish. That's a good question. I think I did not believe that they focused on Hurricane Helene in the proper fashion.
Oh, not at all.
I think they used Hurricane Helene as a way to talk about climate change,
which
was just awful. I don't believe that they focused it's not so much the subject matters that they brought up, it's how they bring them up and how they characterize them when they do, when you're dealing with the political left and CBS News. So, you bring the border crisis up in a very different fashion if you're coming at it from the left or the right. You deal with, foreign policy and foreign entanglement. I don't know that Ukraine got brought up at all.
No. I didn't remember getting it brought up at all either. And I went and I looked up those 2 moderators. Did you know anything about them?
Nora O'Donnell and the other one.
One's worth $22 million.
Oh yeah, they're big time. Nora O'Donnell's about to leave CBS Evening News because nobody watches CBS Evening News.
And she was a writer on shows like The Good Wife and all that. So she's been in Hollywood for a while.
So she's been doing fiction for a long time.
Yes, she has. Just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah, that's nice.
Well, thanks for Matt coming in. Thanks everybody for listening. I'm Jennifer Sheets. You can pick up my show on Sundays from 11 to noon, Master the Workforce. But get ready to buckle up. Matt's going to take you for a ride, and it'll be a great one.
Way to go, Mason.